The flames roared like a beast unleashed, devouring the old warehouse on the edge of Brooklyn as if it had a personal grudge against the world. Dylan Harper, sweat stinging his eyes beneath his helmet, charged into the inferno without a second thought, his heart pounding not just from the heat, but from the fresh wound of betrayal that still burned hotter than the fire around him. Just hours earlier, his crewmen he'd bled and laughed with for years had cornered him in the station locker room. Their voices a venomous chorus. "We don't roll with your kind. Harper, pack your shit and go." Dylan stumbled through the choking smoke, his flashlight cutting erratic paths in the blackness. The weight of his SCBA tank pressing down like the judgment he'd carried in silence for so long. He was 28. Built like the firehouses he'd grown up idolizing, broad shoulders from hauling hoses since he was 18. Calloused hands that had pulled strangers from ruin more times than he could count. Born and raised in the gritty heart of Queens to a single mom who waitressed double shifts, Dylan had always chased the hero's life, the kind that made headlines in the New York Post. Firefighting wasn't just a job. It was his anchor, the one place where his truth being gay didn't have to surface. Until last week, when a careless slip at a bar, a stolen kiss caught on someone's phone, shattered that fragile peace. The warehouse was a tomb of forgotten dreams, rusted machinery, crates of moldy fabrics from some long-defunct textile mill, now feeding the blaze with greedy abandon. Alarms wailed distantly, but inside, it was a symphony of crackles and groans, the building protesting its own demise. Dylan had volunteered for the interior attack, ignoring the captain's half-hearted glance. Captain Ruiz, who hadn't said a word when the crew turned on him that morning. "It's not personal," Ruiz had muttered, eyes on the floor. But it was. It was the most personal thing imaginable. His radio crackled to life, static-laced voices barking orders from outside. "Harper, report. You clear the East Wing yet?" It was Mike, the burly Irish-American vet with 20 years on the job, who'd once slapped Dylan's back after a rooftop rescue and called him brother. Now, Mike's tone dripped with reluctance, like Dylan was a liability they couldn't afford. "East Wing's a no-go." Dylan coughed into the mic, throat raw from the acrid air. "Structural collapse imminent. Anyone inside?" A pause. Too long. Then, "Negative. Get your ass out. Harper, that's an order." But Dylan froze. A faint cry pierced the roar, a child's wail, high and desperate, from the far corner where the loading dock met the offices. His gut twisted. Kids. Always kids. He remembered his own little sister, Mia, lost to leukemia at 12, her small hand in his during those endless hospital nights. No way was he leaving without checking. He pushed forward, boots crunching over debris, the heat clawing at his gear like talons. The office door hung off its hinges, flames licking the frame. Inside, huddled under a desk, was a boy no more than 8 clutching a stuffed bear, his face streaked with tears and grime. Hispanic, Dylan noted through the haze. Dark curls matted with sweat, eyes wide with terror that mirrored Dylan's own buried fears. "Hey, buddy," Dylan said, voice steady despite the inferno closing in. He crouched low, extending a gloved hand. "I'm Dylan. Firefighter. We're getting out of here. Okay. What's your name?" The boy whimpered. "Carlos. Me mama. She's waiting outside. Come on. Carlos. Hold my hand." As Dylan scooped him up, the boy's arms locked around his neck, trust blooming in that impossible moment. But the ceiling groaned a warning rumble and a beam crashed down, blocking the door they'd just come through. Dylan's mind raced. The only way out was deeper in, toward the heart of the blaze, where the roof was thinnest. He keyed his radio. "I've got a civilian. Child. East office. Blocked in. Need backup. Static. Then Mike's voice, edged with something sharper than smoke. Harper. That's not protocol. Evac now. We can't risk a kid. Dylan's words came out fiercer than intended, the hurt spilling over. This is what we do, Mike. Or did you forget? Another pause. The crew's silence on the line was louder than the fire. Dylan didn't wait. He shouldered Carlos tighter and bolted, navigating the labyrinth of flames by memory and instinct. The boy buried his face in Dylan's shoulder, whispering prayers in Spanish that Dylan half understood from his mom's old records. Outside, the truck's lights pulsed red against the night. The crew silhouetted like statues. Mike, with his red beard singed from past calls. Tommy, the young hotshot from Staten Island, fists clenched. And Ruiz, barking into his own radio for ladder support. They watched the warehouse belch smoke, their faces a mask of duty laced with doubt. Whispers had flown since Dylan's outing. How do we trust him in a pinch? What if he's distracted? It was the kind of small-minded poison that festered in locker rooms, born of fear more than hate. But it cut just as deep. Dylan's mom, Elena, had warned him about worlds like this. A Puerto Rican immigrant who'd fled the island after Hurricane Maria. She'd raised him on stories of resilience, of loving fiercely despite the storms. El corazón no miente. Mijo, she'd say. Her English fractured, but her wisdom whole. Dylan had come out to her at 20, after enlisting in the academy, and she'd hugged him like he was still her little league pitcher. But the firehouse, that was his chosen family. Or so he'd thought. Now, as he fought through the blaze, he wondered if family was just another word for chains. The wall beside them buckled, sending embers swirling like angry fireflies. Carlos screamed, and Dylan shielded him, his suit charring at the edges. Almost there. He lied, spotting a sliver of light of vent shaft, too narrow for a full-grown man. But maybe. He radioed again. Vent access on the north side. I'm going for it. Cover me. Harper. Stand down. Ruiz's command crackled. Authoritative but hollow. You're not cleared. Dylan clicked off the radio. The decision made in the split second of a father's instinct he didn't even know he had. He pried open the grate, the metal scorching his gloves, and wedged Carlos through first, the boy's small body wriggling like a determined eel. Go, Carlos. Follow the light. From the other side, muffled shouts. Paramedics. Maybe. Or bystanders. Dylan exhaled, then contorted himself into the shaft, the walls scraping his tank, his breath ragged in the confined space. Claustrophobia clawed at him. Memories of his dad's abandonment flashing unbidden, a shadow slipping out the door when Dylan was 6, leaving Elena to rebuild alone. Not today, Dylan growled to himself. Inching forward, he emerged into the cool night air, coughing. Carlos already wrapped in a blanket. Medics swarming. The boy looked back, eyes shining. You saved me, Dylan. Like a superhero. Dylan managed a grin, but his legs buckled as the adrenaline crashed. The crew approached slowly, faces unreadable under the floodlights. Mike stepped forward first, hand outstretched, but Dylan waved it off. The sting of rejection too fresh. Just doing the job, he muttered, voice hoarse. Ruiz clapped his shoulder, a gesture heavy with unspoken apology. You did good, Harper. Damn good. But good wasn't enough. Not when the whispers lingered, when the next shift loomed like a trial. As they loaded Carlos into the ambulance, the boy's mother rushing forward with sobs of gratitude, Dylan felt the first crack in his resolve. Saving lives was his calling, but surviving his own, that fire was just beginning. The days blurred into a haze of routine and resentment after that night. Dylan clocked in at engine 247. The station house in Bushwick, a brick fortress of faded glory-peeling paint on the apparatus bay. The scent of diesel and stale coffee perpetual in the air. He kept his head down, polishing the rig with methodical strokes, avoiding the eyes that now darted away or lingered with pity. 28 felt ancient in moments like these. His reflection in the chrome bumper showing lines around his eyes that hadn't been there a month ago. Mike tried bridging the gap first, over a lukewarm pot of chili in the kitchen. "Look, kid," he started, his Boston accent thickening with discomfort. "That warehouse thing. You ballsy as hell. Saved the little guy's life." Mike was 42, a divorced dad with a son in college. The kind of firefighter who quoted Hemingway between calls and nursed a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. Dylan stirred his bowl. Appetite gone. Ballsy or reckless? Pick one. The words tasted bitter, laced with the exhaustion of pretending everything was fine. Tommy, lounging at the table with a protein shake, snorted. "Reckless gets you a medal, not a pink slip." At 24, Tommy was the prodigy Staten Island born, with a jaw like a comic book hero and a mouth that ran faster than his sprints. He'd been the one to leak the video, or so the rumors went, his face flushing now as he met Dylan's gaze. "Easy, T." Ruiz interjected from the doorway, his salt and pepper mustache twitching. Captain Ruiz, 51, Mexican-American through and through, had immigrated from Guadalajara as a teen and climbed the ranks on grit alone. He'd seen Dylan's potential from day one. But leadership meant balance. And balance meant not rocking the boat. "We're a team. Always have been." Team. The word echoed hollowly. Dylan remembered his first day. Green at 18. Idolizing these men like gods. Mike teaching him knots. Tommy racing him up the training tower. Ruiz sharing tamales from his abuela's recipe. They'd been his escape from the isolation of high school, where crushes on teammates stayed buried under shoulder pads. Coming out had been a quiet revolution in his apartment with Elena. But here, it was a detonation. That afternoon, a call came in, multi-car pileup on the BQE. Entrapment reported. Dylan geared up fast, the familiar rush dulling the ache. In the truck, silence reigned, the siren whooping like a battle cry. At the scene, twisted metal and honking horns. A minivan crushed against a semi. A woman's arm pinned, her screams piercing the chaos. Dylan was first in, hydraulic jaws whining as he pried the door. "Ma'am, stay with me. What's your name?" "Julia," she gasped, blood trickling from her temple. Mid-40s, blonde hair disheveled, her eyes locked on his with desperate faith. Across the wreckage, Mike freed a trap driver, their rhythms syncing like old times. For a heartbeat, it felt right, the push and pull, the unspoken trust. Tommy hauled a stretcher, yelling updates, and Ruiz directed traffic with calm authority. They moved like one organism, saving Julia and 2 others before the jaws of life could fully deploy. Back at the station, decompressing with Gatorade and war stories. The barrier cracked. Tommy sidled up, voice low. "Heard you knew some Spanish back there." Helped calm her down. It was an olive branch. Clumsy but real. Dylan nodded, throat tight. "Mom's doing. Puerto Rican roots run deep." Mike chuckled, clapping his back harder this time. "Your mom's a saint. Remember that time she brought empanadas after the Astoria blaze? Thought I'd cry from joy." Laughter rippled, tentative, thawing the frost. But as night fell, Dylan lay on his bunk, staring at the water-stained ceiling, the warmth fleeting. He thought of Alex, the barista from the coffee shop down the block, the one with the easy smile and shared playlists of indie folk. Their first date had been a disaster of spilled lattes and awkward silences. But the second, stolen walks in Prospect Park, hands brushing, hearts sinking. Alex was 26. A graphic designer with freckles across his nose and a laugh that chased shadows away. "You're a hero, Dylan," he'd said last night, fingers tracing the scars on Dylan's knuckles. "Don't let them dim that." But heroes bled too. The next morning, a department memo circulated, sensitivity training mandated after recent incidents. Whispers turned to grumbles, political bullshit. Tommy muttered. Mike shot Dylan a look. Not unkind, but guarded. Ruiz called a huddle. "We're professionals. We adapt." End of story. Adapt. Dylan had been adapting his whole life, hiding crushes in the bleachers, volunteering for overtime to avoid family barbecues, smiling through Elena's worried glances. At 20, he'd lost his first love to denial. A college hookup who ghosted after one night, leaving Dylan hollow. Firefighting filled the void, action over introspection. Lives saved over his own unraveling. A quiet evening off brought clarity. Dylan met Alex at a dimly lit diner in Williamsburg. Vinyl booths cracked like old friendships. Over burgers, Alex listened, his green eyes steady. "You deserve a crew that sees you, Dylan. All of you." Dylan traced the condensation on his glass. "I thought I had one." "You do. Just gotta fight for the real ones." Alex's hand covered his under the table. An anchor in the storm. The call came at dawn. Structure fire in a brownstone. Elderly resident trapped. Dylan arrived with the crew. The familiar drill kicking in. But as they breached the door, smoke billowing like a shroud, Dylan spotted her Mrs. Kowalski, 82, the neighborhood's unofficial grandma, who'd knitted scarves for the whole station last Christmas. "She's in the bedroom," a neighbor shouted. Dylan led the charge, Mike at his flank. The hallway narrowed, flames dancing along the wallpaper, vintage florals curling black. Mrs. Kowalski lay curled on the floor, coughing, her silver hair a halo in the gloom. "Dylan, is that you, boy?" Her voice, frail but fierce, cut through. "It's me, Mrs. K. Let's go home." He lifted her gently, her weight light as a promise. Mike cleared the path, axe swinging. "I've got your six, Harper." They emerged into daylight, medics rushing forward. Mrs. Kowalski gripped Dylan's arm. "Knew you'd come, my brave boy." The crew watched, something shifting in their stances. Tommy handed over oxygen. No hesitation. Ruiz nodded approval. But the real test, Lumita battalion inspection. Whispers of transfers. Dylan felt the pull of change, the slow burn of growth. He was more than the labels they feared. He was the man who'd run into hell for strangers, for family, for himself. Evenings with Alex became sanctuary, movie nights in Alex's tiny walk-up, debating plot twists over popcorn, or runs along the East River, breaths syncing with the city pulse. Alex shared his own scars coming out in a conservative Kansas family, the disownment that propelled him to New York. "We rebuild," he'd say, echoing Elena. Their bond deepened, not in grand gestures, but quiet truths. Hands intertwined against the skyline. Yet the station simmered. A prank went wrong. Dylan's locker taped shut with rainbow stickers. "Fag" scrawled in marker. He ripped it down, jaw set. But inside, the old doubts roared. That night, alone, he punched the bag in the gym until his knuckles split, tears mixing with sweat. Why fight for them? He whispered to the empty room. Because they were his. Flawed. Human. Worth the salvage. Weeks turned to months, the calendar flipping like pages in a worn novel. each day etching deeper lines into Dylan's resolve. Summer heat blanketed Brooklyn, turning the station into a sweatbox. Hydrants cracking open for kids' relief and hydrant sprays that painted the streets silver. Dylan turned 29 in July. A low-key affair at Elena's Flan's sweating on the counter. Mia's photo watching from the mantel. Alex charming her with stories of digital art. Happy birthday, Mijo, Elena said, pressing a handmade card into his palm. Her eyes misty. You're growing into the man I always knew you'd be. Alex raised a glass of sangria. To the firefighter who saves more than buildings. Dylan clinked, warmth spreading, but the toast tasted bittersweet. At work, the thaw was partial. Mike inviting him for beers after shifts. Tommy cracking jokes that skirted the edge but landed softer. Ruiz pulled him aside one humid afternoon. Battalions watching. Show him you're indispensable. Indispensable. The word fueled late-night drills. Dylan logging extra hours on the tower ladder. Rappelling with precision that bordered on poetry. He mentored rookies. His voice steady. Fears the real killer. Face it head on. But undercurrents swirled. A new probie. Jake. Fresh from the Academy 22. All earnest eyes and farm boy build from upstate gravitated to Dylan. Oblivious to the history. Teach me the ropes. Man, you're a legend around here. Dylan hesitated. The offer a double-edged hose. Mentorship meant vulnerability. But refusal echoed isolation. Sure. Kid. Start with knots. Their sessions became ritual. Dawn runs through McCarran Park. Jake's lanky stride matching Dylan's power. Jake opened up small-town rejection. A brother who joined the Marines to escape the same whispers. Family's complicated. Jake said one morning. Fog lifting off the lake. But you make it look simple. If only. Dylan's nights with Alex were simple lazy Sundays sketching in bed. Alex's pencil capturing Dylan's profile with strokes that felt like caresses. You're my muse. Alex teased. But his eyes held seriousness. Their love was a quiet rebellion. Walks hand in hidden hand. Stolen kisses in alley shadows. Yet Dylan held back. The crew's ghost haunting intimacy. What if they find out about us? He'd murmur, tracing Alex's collarbone. Then they learn. Alex replied. Fierce. Love isn't a weakness. Autumn arrived with crisp edges. Leaves carpeting the fire escape where Dylan smoked occasionally, a habit Elena hated. The department's pride event loomed. A mandatory mixer at headquarters. Rainbow flags fluttering awkwardly beside the stars and stripes. Ruiz cornered the crew. Attendance is key. Show unity. Grumbles rippled. Mike shrugged. Fine. One beer. In and out. Tommy rolled his eyes. This PC crap. Dylan volunteered to coordinate. A bold stroke. I'll handle setup. It was a gauntlet thrown. His heart hammering. Preparations consumed him, banners strung across the bay. Guest speakers Bukita, trans medic from Queens. A gay chief from Harlem. Jake helped. Wide-eyed. Cool. Man. Never been to one. The night buzzed off-duty firefighters mingling with families. Laughter cutting the awkwardness. Dylan stood by the punch bowl. Suit crisp. Alex at his side in a subtle button-down. Whispers followed. But so did nods. Mike approached. Beer in hand. Brought the wife. She loves this stuff. His wife. Sarah. Hugged Dylan. Heard about the warehouse. You're a rock star. Tommy hovered. Nursing a soda. His usual bravado muted. Not bad turnout. As speeches flowed. The trans medic shared her story booted from her first department. Clawing back twice as strong. Dylan's chest tightened. Echoes of his own path. When her eyes met his across the room. He nodded. Solidarity unspoken. Later, under string lights, Alex pulled him to dance a slow sway to an old Springsteen tune. Crew eyes flicked over, but none intervened. Jake grinned from the sidelines. You two clean up nice. The gauntlet landed soft. But life doesn't script tidy arcs. 2 weeks later, a nor'easter slammed the coast. Winds howling like banshees, flooding low-rises in Red Hook. Calls poured in, water rescues. Gas leaks. A chemical spill from an overturned truck. Dylan and the crew rotated 12-hour shifts. Bone-tired but wired. On the third day, disaster struck. A warehouse flood turned electrical fire. The same stretch of waterfront as that fateful spring blaze. Lightning cracked the sky as they arrived. Rain sheeting down, turning the ground to slick mud. Multiple Vics reported. Ruiz shouted over the gale. Dylan, Mike, take the south entry. Tommy, Jake north. Move. Inside, water pooled ankle deep. Sparks dancing like fireflies on steroids. Dylan and Mike waited. Flashlights piercing the murk. Like old times. Mike yelled. A grin flashing. Minus the rejection. Dylan shot back. Half joking. Mike's face sobered. About that. I was an ass. Scared. Mostly. Of change. Dylan nodded, filing it away as they reached the offices. Their AF family. Huddled, father, mother, teenage daughter. The dad's leg pinned under a fallen beam. Hold on. Dylan assessed. Mike radioing for cutters. The dad, soaked and grimacing. Locked eyes. Kids first. Please. Dylan turned to the girl 16. Braces glinting in fear. What's your name? Kid. Sophia. Voice small. Sophia. You're gonna help me here. On 3. We lift. Together. With Mike's brute strength. They freed the dad. The family staggering out into the storm. But as they exited, a secondary flash exposed wires igniting the floodwaters. Electricity arced. Mike slipping back. Boot caught in debris. Harper. His shout drowned in thunder. Dylan lunged, tackling Mike clear. The shock grazing his arm like a whip. Pain seared. But they tumbled out. Gasping. Medics swarmed. Ruiz's face ashen. You two idiots. Good save. Tommy and Jake emerged with 2 more souls. The crew intact. In the truck, soaked and shivering, Mike gripped Dylan's shoulder. Oh, you. Brother. Brother. The word landed like rain on parched earth. Recovery stretched Dylan's arm in a sling. Therapy sessions blending physical and emotional. Alex fussed. Elena cooked. Jake visited with bad jokes. The crew rotated coverage. Small acts stacking like bricks. Mike's care package of Polish sausages. Tommy's mixtape of classic rock. Winter whispered in. Snow dusting the bay. Dylan returned lighter. The Scara badge. Conversations deepened locker room, talks veering to vulnerabilities. Mike confessing his own doubts after Sarah's miscarriage. Tommy admitting frat house regrets. One snowy night. Post-call. The crew piled into a diner. Steam fogging windows. Ruiz raised his mug. To Dylan. The heart of 247. Cheers echoed. Genuine. Dylan looked around. Seeing them anew not gods, but men. Flawed and forging ahead. Growth wasn't linear. It snowballed. Alex proposed a road trip upstate cabin. No sirens. Just us. He said. Ringless, but promising. Dylan agreed. The future thawing. Spring bloom tentative. Cherry blossoms fragile against Brooklyn's concrete. Mirroring the fragile piece Dylan had carved. 30 now his birthday marked with a station barbecue. Elena's Eras con Gandals steaming beside Mike's grill mastery. Laughter flowed freer. Toasts to the unbreakable Harper. Alex blending seamlessly, his hand a steady presence under the picnic table. But peace, like embers, could reignite. Rumors stirred from up the China conservative councilmen pushing traditional values clauses in department policy. Veiled barbs at inclusivity initiatives. Ruiz briefed the crew. Jaw tight. Eyes open. We lead by example. Dylan felt the old coil tighten. He'd risen through ranks on merit. But merit now tangled with identity. Late nights. He'd pace his apartment. Alex's sketches tacked to walls like talismans, portraits of them amid flames. Hands linked. Defiant. They're testing us, Alex said one evening. Curled on the couch. City lights painting his face gold. But you've already won hearts here. Hearts. Yes, but policy could sever ties. Dylan threw himself into community outreach, school visits, fire safety demos at the YMCA, where kids like Carlos drew him as a caped savior. One afternoon, Carlos, now 9, bear in tow, hugged him fierce. You're my hero forever, Dylan. The words anchored him. Heroes weren't born. They were forged in quiet choices. The decision to show up despite the cost. Summer scorched again. Heat waves warping the air. Calls spiking, apartment blazes from faulty ACs. Brush fires in the parks. The crew gelled. A machine oiled by trial. Dylan and Jake tag-teaming high angles. Mike's experience tempering Tommy's speed. A call in late July tested the Bonsa high-rise inferno in Midtown. Tourists trapped on upper floors. The latter strained against wind shear. Dylan ascending with Jake. Axes biting into window frames. Floor 12 clear. Jake radioed. Voices below, a chorus of support. On 15. Chaos, smoke thick as tar. A businessman 40s. Suit charred, coughing in a corner office. My colleague. She's. Dylan spotted her unconscious. Leg twisted. Got her. Jake. Secure the evac line. They rigged the harness, lowering her inch by inch. Dylan's muscles screaming. Below. The crew waited. Ruiz's command steady. As she touched down, cheers erupted. But the real blaze was internal. Back at quarters. Decompressing. Tommy pulled Dylan aside. Saw you up there. Balls of steel. A beat. Sorry about. Before. Was young and stupid. Dylan clasped his forearm. We all were. Water under the bridge. Not quite. The councilman's bill gained traction. Headlines blaring, protecting our bravest. Protests brewed, LGBTQ advocates marching City Hall steps. Signs reading, heroes don't discriminate. Dylan spoke at a rally. Voice amplified but steady. We run into fires for everyone. Our job doesn't end at the door. Alex stood beside. Pride radiating. The crew attended unofficially, Mike with Sarah. Jake solo. Even Ruiz lurking in back. Whispers turned to applause. Fall deepened. Leaves a carpet of gold and regret. Elena's health faltered, a cough lingering into pneumonia. Hospital lights harsh. Dylan sat vigil. Alex and the crew rotating in, Mike with takeout. Tommy with DVDs. Ruiz with quiet prayers. Your family, Elena whispered, squeezing Dylan's hand. All of you. She pulled through. Frail but fierce. Discharged to a recovery, scented with her cooking. The scare reframed priorities. Dylan proposed to Alex one crisp evening in the park. Ring simple silver. Build a life with me. Alex's yes was a vow. Tears salting the kiss. Winter's grip tightened. Holidays a whirlwind. Station potluck with Alex's gingerbread. Elena's posada with piñata swinging. But New Year's Eve brought the storm, a blizzard blanketing the city. Power lines snapping. A nursing home evacuation gone wrong. Engine 247 mobilized at midnight. Snow blinding. Winds carving drifts. The home. Victorian relic in Bed-Stuy. Flickered dark. Generators failing. Residents dozens. Elderly and infirm clustered in the lobby. Panic rippling. Phased evac. Ruiz ordered. Dylan. Lead the ambulatory. Mike. Wheelchairs. Tommy. Jacobs. Dylan moved among them. Voices calm. Mrs. Patel. Arm here. Mr. Lee. Slow steps. Their gratitude was tactile clutched hands. Murmured blessings. Halfway through. Disaster, ceiling collapse in the east wing. Trapping 3 aides under rubble. Dylan heard the crash. Instinct propelling him. I'm going in. Ruiz hesitated. Structural. Captain. They're ours. Mike backed him. Axe ready. The crew followed. A unit unbreakable. Dylan crawled through debris. Dust caking his mask. Spotting the first aid pinned. Leg crushed. Hang on. Lena. Crew's here. Tommy freed her arms. Jake shoring beams. Mike halt. Dylan pulled together. Seamless. The second. Third miraculous saves. The aides weeping as they emerged. Outside. Ambulances idled. Horns cheering. In the aftermath. Snow falling soft. Ruiz addressed them. Breath fogging. That was legendary. Dylan. You led us true. Mike hugged him. Unashamed. Brother forever. Tommy punched his shoulder. Don't scare us like that. Jake grinned. Told you, legend. Dylan looked to Alex. Waiting in the glow of taillights. Heart full. The councilman's bill. Stalled by public outcry. Heroes' testimonies. Redemption wasn't a blaze extinguished. It was the steady burn of chosen bonds. Illuminating paths forward. The new year dawned crystalline. Resolutions whispered amid the clink of champagne flutes at Elena's New Year's brunch, mimosa bubbles rising like hopes. Dylan. Arm healed, but spirit scarred anew from the blizzard rescue. Felt the weight lift incrementally. 31 loomed not as a milestone, but a marker, a decade in the department. A lifetime of becoming. Station life pulsed with renewal. Promotions buzzed Ruiz, eyeing deputy chief. Whispers of Dylan for lieutenant. You've earned it. Mike said over engine checks. His red beard flecked with frost from a morning drill. Fatherhood had softened him lately. His son home from college. Stories of dorm pranks bridging generations. Tommy, ever the spark, organized a crew retreat bowling in Coney Island. Neon lights flickering like faulty wiring. Awkward at first. Alex included as extended family. But pins crashing dissolved walls. Jake struck out hilariously. Dylan high-fiving. Rookie mistake. Learn from the best. Jake quipped. Eyes twinkling with the easy camaraderie Dylan had once craved. Alex bowled a spare. Cheering louder than necessary. His presence a quiet revolutionary fanfare. Just belonging. Later. Over hot dogs on the boardwalk. Waves lapping the polluted shore. Tommy broached the unspoken. That rally speech. Kicked ass. Made me think. Dylan paused. Mustard dripping. About. Stuff. Like. My sister's gay didn't tell you. Came out last year. I was. Supportive. But scared for her. Tommy's voice cracked. Vulnerability raw. You paved the way. Man. The admission hung. A bridge crossed. Mike nodded. Takes guts. All around. Spring unfurled. Wedding plans weaving through calls. Venue hunts in the Finger Lakes. Alex's family flying from Kansas. Tentative bridges mended. Elena fussed over invitations. Her health steadying into garden walks. Un hijo casado. She marveled. crossing herself. But duty called Loudera heat dome in June. Wildfires licking the suburbs. Mutual aid pulling 247 north. Convoys snaked up I-87. Rigs rumbling like thunder. At the front, a sprawling estate ablaze, summer home of some hedge fund tycoon. But lives mattered more than luxury. Dylan coordinated water shuttles. Jake at his side, directing tenders through smoke-choked lanes. Relays set. Jake yelled, sweat carving rivers down his face. Mike battled spot fires. Tommy on hose lines. Ruiz oversaw from command. Radio crackling updates. Hours blurred. Sun dipping blood red. When a mayday pierced, Proby from another engine down. Heat exhaustion in the structure. Dylan didn't hesitate. I'm closest. Cover me. Into the maw heat like a furnace. Visibility 0. He found the kid 19. Pale and collapsing, dragging him out on sheer will. Lungs burning. Medics swarmed. The Proby stirring with a weak, thanks, man. Back in formation. The crew enveloped him, no words. Just grips and nods. That night. Camp cots under stars. Beers cracked in defiance of regs. Stories flowed, near misses. Triumphs. The human weave. You're the glue. Harper. Ruiz said quietly. Firelight dancing on his face. Always were. The wildfires quelled. But embers of change smoldered. Back home. The wedding near, July sun gilding the lake house. Guest a tapestry, Elena's church ladies. Alex's artsy crew. The firefighters in ill-fitting suits. Vows exchanged under oaks. Dylan's voice steady, in fire and calm. I choose you. Alex's reply, and I you every scar. Every save. Honeymoon in the Adirondacks hikes, tracing waterfalls. Nights tangled in flannel. The world reduced to two. This is us. Alex murmured. Head on Dylan's chest. Unbroken. Return brought routine, laced with joy. Shared mornings brewing coffee. Evenings on the fire escape, watching sunsets bleed orange. But joy's shadow Lumita department audit. Old prejudices resurfacing in anonymous complaints. Favoritism for the gay guy. Ruiz fought it. Testimonies pouring in. Mike's letter, Dylan saved my life. Literally. Character like that. Gold. Tommy's, best mentor. Period. Jake's. Earnest, family. The audit cleared. But scars itched. Dylan channeled it into advocacy panels at the academy. Mentoring queer recruits. Own your truth. He'd tell them. It fuels the fight. Fall painted the city amber. Harvest festivals bumping station barbecues. Elena announced a trip Puerto Rico. Roots calling. Come. Mijo. See where your fire started. Dylan and Alex went. Sands white. Waves turquoise. Elena's stories unfolding like petals. Her youth. Love's lost. The storm that birthed resilience. You carry it all, she said. Toes in surf. Winter whispered early. Holidays a hearth. Christmas at the station, trees strung with helmets. Gifts swapped, Mike's whiskey. Tommy's tickets to a Nets game. New Year's. With Alex. Fireworks bursting over the bridge. Resolutions whispered, more travels. Maybe kids someday. But fate scripted twists. Spring 2030. A gas explosion in a Chinatown tenement, multi-story collapse. Voids unstable. 247 first on scene. Chaos reigning. Debris like confetti from hell. Cries echoing. Dylan triaged. Directing, Mike. Stabilize that wall. Tommy. Victims to tree off. Jake spotted a pocket, teens trapped. Beams teetering. Dylan's call. Into the void. Dylan crawled. Radio live. 3 souls. Since shoring. The crew built fast props and planks while Dylan talked them through. Breathe easy. Names: Anya, Liam. We're coming. Extraction was poetry in peril, inch by inch. Hands linking across rubble. Emerging. Dust-caked. Cheers deafened. Medals followed department commendations. Headlines praising the unbreakable team. But for Dylan, the gold was in Ruiz's office. Crew crowded. Lieutenant Harper. Well-deserved. Promotion pinned. Shoulders squared. Alex waited outside. Kiss sealing it. My lieutenant. Growth cycled. Eternal, each season a layer. Building the man. The love. The legacy. Time's river flowed swifter now. Carving canyons in the familiar. Dylan at 32. Lieutenant stripes glinting on his collar. Shouldered command with a grace born of scars. Engine 247 hummed under his watch drill sharper. Morale a steady flame. Mike. Gray threading his beard. Mentored rookies with tales of the old days. His sun shadowing shifts. Eyes wide at Dylan's poise. Tommy. Married now to a teacher from his bowling league. Channeled energy into union reps. Fighting for better gear. No one left behind. He'd say. Echoing Dylan's mantra. Jake. Seasoned at 26. Vied for his own bars. Their bond mentor-protege evolved to peers. Beers after shifts laced with life advice. Alex's career bloomed, freelance gigs turning to agency leads. His apartment sketches yielding murals in community centers, firefighters entwined with diverse families. Symbols of unity. Home was their Havana brownstone in Bed-Stuy. Elena a frequent guest. Her garden herbs scenting Sunday dinners. But rivers twist. Summer 2031 brought drought. Then deluge hurricanes churning off the coast. Remnants slamming the city. Evac orders flew. 247 staging at flood-prone zones. Red Hook again. Waters lapping at stoops. Dylan coordinated from the command truck. Ruiz at his elbow now deputy. His promotion bittersweet. Leaving the house to Dylan. You've got this, son. Calls cascaded. Boat rescues in submerged streets. Families clinging to rooftops. One pre-dawn, a shelter collapse under wind. Migrants huddled, new arrivals from storm-ravaged islands. Faces echoing Elena's old photos. Multiple Vics. Dylan barked. Crew deploying swiftwater gear. Mike paddled the Zodiac. Tommy scanning with thermals. Jake hauled lines. Dylan diving in wetsuit slick. Current tugging like regret. He pulled a woman, first elderly. Clutching a toddler. You're safe. He soothed in halting Spanish. Elena's lessons surfacing. Her gracias was a lifeline. Then a man. Leg lacerated. Stories spilling. Fled the hurricane. Lost everything. Dylan's heart clenched, mirrors of his mother's flight. Not anymore. The evac stretched days. Exhaustion a constant companion. Media swarmed. Cameras catching Dylan cradling the toddler. Headline: Lieutenant Love saves storm survivors. Backlash followed. Trolls online. Woke firefighters prioritizing illegals. But support drowned it, donations pouring. Councilman from years back apologizing publicly. His own son out and proud. Fall healed. Harvest moons gilding runs with Alex marathon training. Breaths sinking. Dreams shared of fostering. Building family beyond blood. Our turn to save. Alex said. Medals from Dylan's vest glinting. Winter bit. Holidays a blaze of light. Elena's 60th luau in the backyard. Tiki torches flickering. Crew crashing with dishes. Mike's pierogies. Tommy's ribs. Toasts to endurance. Dances under stars. Spring 2032 whispered Chanhe a positive test. Alex's hand trembling on the stick. Wait, no. Fostering first. Emergency placement. A boy named Rico. 10. Eyes haunted from group homes. Dylan knelt. Hey. Rico. This your room? Wary nod. Temporary. Long as you want. Alex beside. Arm around. Rico's thaw was glacial nights of nightmares. Days of silences. Dylan read stories. Firehouse tales of heroes like Carlos. Crew visits helped. Jake teaching basketball. Tommy pranks with whoopee cushions. One night, Rico woke screaming flashback to his mom's overdose. Dylan held him. Rocking. I've got you. Always. Morning brought Rico's whisper. Can I stay? Family. Dylan affirmed. Summer swelled. Pride parades marching rainbows through Manhattan. 247s float a rig draped in flags. Dylan waving with Rico on shoulders. Cheers thundered. History's weight lifting. But autumn storm meet a factory explosion in the industrial zone. Chain reaction igniting tanks. Fireball blooming skyward. 247 first responders. Sirens wailing into hell. Dylan assessed. Hazmat protocols. Evac radius 5 blocks. Crew fanned. Mike on perimeters. Tommy ventilating. Jake monitoring air. Inside. Workers trapped 5. Chemical burns searing. Dylan lead breach. SCBA hissing. Visibility soup. Report. 2 down. Jake's voice. Dylan found the third a welder. 30s. Gasping. Can't. Breathe. Air's coming. Name. Victor. Victor. Fight with me. Extrication brutal beams twisted. Dylan prying with Halligans. Sweat blinding. Out they came. One by one. Medevacs chopping overhead. Last, a young woman. Pinned under machinery. Pulse thready. Hang on. Elenano. Wait. That's my mom's. Dylan shook it off. Focus laser. Crew shored. Lifted miracle. As she stabilized, Victor clasped Dylan's hand. You're gay. Right. Saw the parade. Doesn't matter. You're my angel. Dylan smiled through grime. Just doing the job. Post-incident. Inquiries praised. Exemplary leadership. Promotions rippled Jake to acting sergeant. Home. Rico drew the scene stick figure Dylan amid flames. Family haloed. My hero. Alex framed it. Ours too. Growth layered. Roots deepening each rescue a thread. Weaving the tapestry of lives intertwined. Prejudices burned to ash. Years layered like sedimentary rock. Each stratum a testament to endurance. Dylan at 35. Silver threading his temples prematurely from stress and sun. Led 247 with a quiet authority that commanded respect without roar. The brownstone echoed with life now Rico. 13. Walls papered in posters of space shuttles. His adoption papers framed like art. Alex balanced agency deadlines with school runs. His laughter the glue in chaos. Elena, 70 but spry, tended the community garden. Her plots yielding tomatoes that fueled barbecues. Crew evolutions marked time. Mike retired. A grandfather now. His farewell roast a tearjerker stories of Dylan's warehouse, save looped with affection. Tommy captained a neighboring house. His kid a toddler tugging at turnout gear. Jake, under Dylan's wing, earned full lieutenant. Their bond a pillar. 2034's summer simmered with tension budget cuts looming. Stations facing closures. Dylan testified at hearings. Voice resonant. We're not numbers. We're lifelines. Public rallied. Petitions flooding. The cruise exploits Rico's adoption story viral tipping scales. Closures averted. Morale soared. Fall brought harvest of joys. Rico's bar mitzvano. Wait. His science fair win. Project on fire dynamics earning scholarships. Dylan beamed. Alex snapping photos. Proud doesn't cover it. Winter wrapped gentle. Holidays expanded extended family blending. Alex's parents visiting. Bridges mended over turkey and apologies. Elena's stories wove traditions. Puerto Rican pastels beside Kansas pies. Spring 2035 bloomed with Promesia's second foster. Girl named Lila. 7. Braids and braces. Trauma tucked in shy smiles. Can I have a puppy? Her first ask. Dylan chuckled. One-step family first. Integration slow, therapy sessions. Park picnics. Crew, aunties and uncles spoiling. Jake built a treehouse. Tommy coached soccer. Echoes of Dylan's own village. But spring storm. A subway derailment in Marish crush. Cars twisted like tinfoil. Panic underground. 247 responded. Descending into the tunnel's maw, darkness absolute. Screams echoing off tiles. Dylan coordinated descent, ropes secure. Med kits forward. Mike's replacement. A vet named Carlos Irony noted. Broad-shouldered from Texas secured anchors. Tommy rappelled. Jake triaged. Dylan pushed deep. Flashlight a beacon. Victims everywhere, commuters dazed. A mother clutching infant. Easy. Ma'am. Name. Rebecca. Rebecca. We're out in minutes. He splinted her arm. Passed the baby up chain. Deeper. A crush pointines pinned. Rebar spearing. Breathe. Helps here. Extrication epic, jaws whining. Crew sinking Dylan's commands calm. On my mark lift. One boy. 16. Gassed free. Thought I was done. Not on my watch. Dylan clapped his back. Ascent grueling. Casualties tallied low by miracle. Surface air sweet. Sun blinding. Families reuniting in hugs. Medals Rain City keys for Dylan. Headlines, Tunnel Titans, 247's heroic dive. Home. Lila drew crayons, tunnels. Lights. Dylan's helmet haloed. You save everyone. Not everyone. He admitted. Hugging her. But I try. Summer sizzled. Pride amplified Rico marching. Lila on shoulders. Crew flowed a spectacle of hoses as rainbows. Alex's mural unveiled, the team. Diverse and defiant. Against skyline flames. Fall deepened bonds, Elena's memoir self-published. Tales of migration inspiring Rico's essay. Grandma's fire. He called it. Winter's hush brought reflection. Dylan's promotion to battalion chief whispered. Ruiz's endorsement sealed. You've grown us all. Ruiz said. I's proud. But growth demands sacrifice. A call in December, high-rise conflagration. Holiday party turned tragedy smoke detectors failed. Floors engulfed. 247 charged. Dylan from command, vent upper. Search teams pair. Carlos and Jake breached. Tommy on ladders. Dylan monitored feeds. Gut twisting. A child reported missing. 5. Lost in smoke. I'm suiting up. He grabbed gear. Descending. Inside. Heat oppressive. Dylan called, little one. Firefighter. A cough answered from a closet. Tiny form curled. Here. He scooped her. Shielding. Navigating inferno by touch. Daddy's waiting. Sweet pea. Out into cold. Father weeping. My Ellie. Crew enveloped. The save a spark. Post call. Debrief raw. Close calls shared. Fears voiced. Carlos admitted. Joined after seeing your story. Gave that. Needed hope. Dylan nodded. Hope's the real extinguishant. New Year dawned. Battalion bars pinned in ceremony. Crew toasting. Rico's speech. Chief Harper, heart of the house. Alex's kiss later. My chief. My home. Time's layers thickened. Each a story of salvage, not just structures, but souls. Prejudices forged into strength. Love the eternal flame. Decades distilled to essence. Dylan at 42. Lines etching wisdom around eyes that still sparked with that warehouse fire's defiance. Battalion chief now. Overseeing clusters of houses. His office a warren of maps and commendations, warehouse plaque prominent. Carlos the boy scrawled thank you beside. The brownstone thrived. Rico. 20. NYU engineering. Home for breaks with laundry and laughs. Lila. 14. Braces traded for debates. Her activism budding in school clubs. Alex. 40. Gray at temples matching Dylan's. Led a design for murals statewide. His hand Dylan's anchor through boardroom battles. Elena. 84. A great grandma in spirit. Her garden a legacy. Stories compiled into a family tome. Crew constellations shifted, Tommy a district chief. Kids tugging at his legacy. Jake captain of 247. His wedding to a paramedic a station affair. Carlos a fixture. His Texas drawl lightning briefings. 2040's spring carried weight a pandemic echo. Flu variant straining resources. Calls blending fires with medical surges. Dylan orchestrated surges, PP drills. Vaccine clinics in base. One crisis crested, apartment blaze in a senior tower. Oxygen tanks fueling inferno. Residents frail. 247 rolled. Dylan on scene. Priority, mobility impaired. Jake led search. Carlos hoses. Echoes of old rhythms. Dylan entered a unit smoke thick. A veteran coughing on the floor. 90. Medals pinned to pajamas. Sir. Lieutenant. Chief Harper. Let's move. The man gripped his arm. Knew your type in Nam. Save my hide once. Pay in forward. Evac complete. The vet clasped hands. Proud of you. Son. Summer healed. Reunions under Oak's mic. 70. Cane in hand. Toasting the kid who made us better. Elena danced with Alex. Her steps light. False foliage framed milestones. Rico's internship at NASA Analog. Lila's first protest climate march. Dylan chaperoning. Sign reading, fires we can prevent. Winter whispered farewells, Ruiz passing quietly. Funeral a procession of rigs. Bells tolling. Eulogy Dylan's, he built us. We carry the torch. Grief forged resolve. Spring 2041. A bridge collapse, construction fault. Vehicles plummeting into the East River. Multi-agency chaos. Divers plunging. 247 on banks. Extrication from wreckage. Hypothermia looms. Dylan commanded. Triage floating. Boat secure. Rico. Shadowing for class. Watched awed. That's Dad. Saves mounted. A driver pulled from currents. Family reunited. One diver surfaced. Child in arms 5. Buoyant in vest. Got her. Medals followed. But Dylan's gaze lingered on Rico's pride. Summer's heat peaked in wildfires again, urban interface ablaze. Evacuations mass. Dylan helicoptered overviews. Ground teams toiling. A backdraft trapped Jake's rookies. Dylan rappelled in. Freeing them. Burns minor, but lessons stark. Old habits. He joked post-hospital. Jake at bedside. Can't let you have all the fun. Autumn brought harvest. Lila's scholarship. Rico's proposal to his college levy, a barista like Alex wants. Wedding small. Dylan's toast. Love like a hose line steady. Essential. Winter's solstice party swelled extended kin. Crew old and new. Elena. Frail but fierce. Raised glass. To me familia. Through every storm. Her passing came soft spring rain pattering windows. Surrounded by all. Dylan's vigil echoed childhood. Her hand in his. You burned bright. Mijo. Keep the light. Funeral rain lashed. But sun broke after. Rainbow our Singa sign. Summer 2042. Dylan's retirement loomed 43. Body tallying tolls. Spirit ready for more. Last call, school bus fire. Kids escaping. Dylan last out. Ensuring none left. Crew saluted. Hoses arched water rainbows. Retirement roast, tales torrential. Tears and laughs. Jake's words, you taught us to run toward. Not away. Alex's gift, mural of the Journey warehouse flames to family hearths. Home now. Travels beckoned, Puerto Rico sands with grandkids someday. Kansas prairies with Alex's kin. Volunteer gigs mentoring at the academy. Queer youth fireside chats. One evening. Boardwalk stroll Coney ghosts. Waves whispering. Rico and Lilo ahead. Lives launched. We did good. Dylan said. Hand in Alex's. Better than good. Alex replied. Epic. The hook that started with roar of rejection faded to echo. Replaced by harmony, a crew redeemed. A life reclaimed. Humanity's warmth outshining any blaze. In the end, bravery wasn't the act that saved others. It was the courage to save oneself. Lighting paths for all who followed. Regret. Theirs. Perhaps. But forgiveness the true extinguisher. Leaving only light.